today, based on your data, when you all registered, we picked the top 3 that we have time to cover. So today we're going to talk about the avoidable mistakes that women in business suppliers like us make unknowingly when we go to market, to corporate market. We are also going to talk about practical application of referrals. First of all, how am I able to go from being a tier 2 to a tier 1? Dawn Nicole, what is a tier 2? I've never heard this before. So when it comes to us as small businesses, ladies, and we want to compete to do business in corporate America, or even in the government space or in the federal space, they classify us as tier 1 and tier 2. So a tier 1 is a big giant company that already has a proven track record, that can handle the load. Usually they're already known for this work. They already have that relationship. And so they're the bigger ones, usually bigger than us in some cases, not all. And then a tier 2 is where a tier 1 will reach down and say, you know what, in order to fulfill this work, I'm gonna need Tangela on this job. I'm gonna need Taja. I'm gonna need Alish. I'm gonna need Sandy. And so a tier 1 will then say to the client that you are the tier 2, which is the subcontractor. So the tier 1 owns the relationship and you are the tier 2. But today I'm going to talk to you about how to be a tier 1. Because did you know, Angel, that the moment a company gives you directly the contract to run and deliver and manage, you're automatically a tier 1? So sometimes your first contract can make you a tier 1. So we're going to talk about being in a position to service large corporations locally and nationally. And we're going to talk about practical tips for asking for referrals, because this is all part of it. So the reason we no longer ask you to put in the chat what you want to learn is because we already picked up this data and we're going to cover it today. Now, there's some things we're not going to cover today. There's some things that you all said you want to learn that we're not going to cover. And the reason why we're not going to cover it is because it's in the supplier readiness training program that you have access to with your membership. So some of you have all the answers you need. You have 5 hours of training that some of you just have not tapped into, and it has all these answers. And we're not just going to keep repeating ourselves because we want you to invest in yourself and take the 5-hour training. For example, what we're not going to cover is reviewing RFPs, because if you scan this code, this is in that 5-hour training. Okay. The 5-hour training will teach you the difference between an RFI, which is a request for information, a RFQ, which is a request for quotation, and an RFP, how they're different and how they're similar. It teaches you that. Also, this training is going to teach you all about the types of certifications and where to start. It's going to teach you about registering on corporate portals. It's going to teach you pricing strategies with real scenarios, and it's going to teach you how to use your competitive advantage to get into corporate doors. All right. So that's why we don't cover it here. Scan the code, at least take a picture of this slide if you're the least bit curious, and go back to it. But just know you already get a discount on this as a part of your membership. It's right there. Okay. All right, without further ado, I'm gonna assume you took the picture or a screenshot, and we're gonna move on. Kimberly, are there any questions in the chat before we jump in? I've seen something pop up. I can't hear you, so I'm gonna assume, I can't tell if you said yes or no. Yes, can you come off mute to talk to me? Okay, all right, no problem. Taja, do you see anything in the chat that we should be aware of?
I don't see anything in the chat as of yet.
Okay, when I'm sharing, I can't really see you all, so you're gonna have to speak to me so I know you're good. All right. Okay, let's start with the top 5 mistakes corporate contractors make. We never talk about this, but we need to. So Sandy, good morning. Real quick, Sandy, didn't you learn about the top 5 mistakes when you took the supplier readiness training program? Can you just talk to that real fast and how that's helped you to have the competitive advantage?
Yes, the supply readiness training was amazing, ladies. Because when I took the training, I didn't know anything. At least you guys have this part. When I took that training, it walked me through everything. So when I finished and graduated from that training, I knew about RFIs, RFPs. I knew about the certifications. I knew about the portals, and I was actually ready to start jumping in and start looking and doing the certifications. It helped me to see where I was, what I needed to know, and then move from there instead of starting from ground one. So you definitely want to take the time to do this and get that, get the supplier readiness certification program.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. I just want to make sure that I'm not just saying the same thing every month when because people are asking the same questions about this. All right. So let's jump into, excuse me, the top 5 mistakes for corporate contracting. So the first one is a lack of preparation and research. And I have been guilty of this. I'm going to I'm going to be vulnerable today and I'm going to talk about all the mistakes I made so that I don't embarrass anyone. I'll just embarrass myself a little bit. I remember I had the biggest call of my life. It took me forever to get this person on the phone, you all. It was very important to me. And here was the problem. Here's what I didn't prepare for. Even though I understood the company, right? So the company brand, I'm not going to even say their name because I don't want to embarrass myself, but it was a big box bank. I'll say that. And I had waited about 3 months to get this call. So I get on this call and I think that I've done my research. I think that I have enough data. And I go right into this call with, "Hi, I'm Donna Cole. We are Queen City Women in Business, and this is what we want." And I actually led with the ask. I led with what I want. And the woman listened to me. And then when she was finished, I'll never forget, she said, "Next time you need to do your research." And that was her first response. And I just wanted to melt and be invisible because I thought I had done my research. But what she was actually saying to me, Chef Maria, is that she was saying, while you did your research on the company, Dawn Nicole, you didn't research me in my role, because if you had, you wouldn't be talking to me about doing this deal this way because my department doesn't even touch small businesses. And I thought, oh, I just want to be invisible in my chair right now. I was so embarrassed. And she said, next time, she said, don't guess on the big guys like me. I sit at the board level. You should have researched me and my role specifically so that when you have this call with me, you know specifically your ask for me. Maybe your ask could have been, "Dawn Nicole, this is what we do. Could you introduce me to da da da? Could you help me navigate? Could you?" She said, "What you should be talking to me about is venture capital and funding to fund this tech company because you really have a tech company." So it was a total mismatch. And she read me my rights for 45 minutes. And I will never forget it. So when you're doing your preparation, it's not just on the company, but it's also on the person. It's also looking them up, finding out, have they been on YouTube? Have they been on podcasts? What do they, the human, the person, what do they care about? Because the company is just the brand, but people are at the heart of this thing. I've got to speak her language. And she never took another call from me again. It was really a hard lesson to learn. So this is why I put myself out here and I say to you that even if you research the company, make sure you research the person. And then here's the other thing I learned, right? Lead with your ask. These people are busy, and the right ask. What is the right ask for the person you're speaking to? What is the right ask? It's not your generic ask. It's not the thing that you put out there blanketed, right, on LinkedIn or Facebook and say, "I'm looking for," but what is the right ask for her? And had I researched her, I would have known. The other thing I forgot to do that is so important is make sure that in your first 3 slides, so if you open up with who you are, the second slide is what you want, right? What you want and why they are the right person or the right partner. The third or fourth slide needs to absolutely be about why you are the right person. You, who are you? I had went through my whole pitch deck, ladies, and I never even talked about me. What qualifies me? Because at the end of the day, these people do business with people, not with brands. They're investing in you. I completely missed the opportunity to talk about me and my passion of what I had done and what I had accomplished. And there was so much, but I thought that that was boisterous. When in fact, she really wanted to connect with me. Who are you? So that is something we forget often. And especially as women, we are all taught when we're growing up, don't be conceited, don't be too much, don't look in the mirror too long, right? We're all taught these things. And so then when we're pitching, it shows up. We don't talk about ourselves, but the guys do. So just make sure that you are really building that into the story, okay? The second biggest mistake that we see is going to be inadequate networking and relationship building. If they don't know you exist, then they don't know where to find you. And I see some stuff in the chat. So Kimberly and Taja, can you keep me honest on if there's conversation happening in the chat, Kimberly?
Yeah, right now, Sandra just said, like, thank you for your transparency and how powerful a testimony it can be like that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I don't even think I've shared that publicly, but Taja knows about that story. I was kind of broken up. Uh, okay, so inadequate networking. So here's the real question. Sometimes it's not about the what, it's about asking yourself the right question. Are you networking in the right places though? Yes, you're all over the place. Well, Dawn Nicole, I go to 5 places a week. Is that the right amount? How are you getting business done? I'm gonna tell you a secret. And I always say that, so I have all types of secrets, right? But someone shared with me recently, and I think you should know this. I had a gentleman, a major construction company, because that's what Taj and I do. We spend our days appeasing members and then corporate partners, and that's our model. So I'm on the phone with the major construction company who I won't name, and he told me, and Taj, I think you were on this call. He said, if I see a potential supplier, I look at their social media posts, and if I see that they're everywhere and they're hanging out all over the place, I'm not comfortable doing business with them. What? He said, because there's a perception in my mind that you're not handling business if you're all over the place. If you're hanging out and you're socializing and every single day you're at a soiree. So ladies, we have to be strategic. People are watching us. He said, I can't trust you with my multi-million-dollar project and account and know that you're actually doing the work, doing the business if you're hanging out. And guess what? A lot of people feel that way, but they won't say it. But he said it, and I think Taja was on that call with me. And so what this made me think about is, well, I don't know how fair that is, but it is a perception, and perception is reality, Angel, right? We know this. It's reality for some people. And I've heard this before, by the way. And so what does that mean? That means that if we're going to be out networking, make it make sense, right? Like if you're a speaker, then maybe you're at a speakers conference, right? If you're in construction or if you're, right? So making things make sense. So asking yourself, am I networking in the right places? Am I doing this at the right frequency? Am I also still managing my business? And by the way, it's a powerful move to bring someone on who's responsible for some of that networking. Networking doesn't mean you have to be at the networking conference. Taja, I know many businesses where they hire a person to go represent the company at a networking event. It's just as strong for you to come back and say, our partner Sal was at an event representing our company, and this is what that looks good too, to show that you have a team. They're watching us. They're looking for this. Any thoughts or comments? I do want to make this conversational. Who's kind of blown away by the fact that a buyer is looking at your page? I want to hear from you all, ladies. This is not one way. I want to hear your comments about that. Does that surprise you, Angel and Sandy and Chef Maria?
Well, Dawn Nicole, I just typed that in there. I think that's wild because if you listen to a lot of coaches when they're working with their people, they tell them, oh, you need to be out and put all these different posts out there because you're building relationship and you want to build trust with people. So you got to show them your personal life, your ups, your downs, your this and that. But you're just showing, and I never really believed that, but now you're just putting that in perspective and saying, that's right, that's not true, because somebody's looking at you and think that that's just too much.
Yeah, that's a perception. And if it doesn't connect with your business too, if you're just everywhere. And I think that if you're everything to everybody, it scares people. It's like, whoa, what are you doing? Are you working? Tangela, I saw you come off mute, and Chef Marie.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been doing, and I'm very strategic about this, based upon, because I normally do work with C-suite executive leadership, and we are connected on LinkedIn. I'm looking at the frequency of their postings and where they are, because I would agree with what you're saying. That if they're seeing you plastered all over and you're everywhere, that the misconception could be that, well, when are you getting any work done?
Yes.
When are you strategically working with your teams and getting things done? So that is how I measure. I'm pretty much trying to be where they are in terms of frequency of postings. We only post maybe once or twice a week, if that. We do something called an Infotech Tuesdays. It's an insight that's provided via video, and we also do a infographic on Thursdays. And then we do a bi-weekly insight, infotech insight to our executive leadership. So to your point, if we are at an event, it's not going to be every event that we're posting. So I would agree with what you're saying. There is that perception.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Tangela. Then I want to hear from Chef Maria, then Angel, and then I want to tell you how this changes based on the role you're in, the type of company you're in, right? Does it make sense? So Chef Maria, you, and then I saw Angel Taylor with her hand up.
I love that. That's a great perspective. And I'm always very strategic in what I post on social media and try and balance the work and the personal so people can see a well-rounded perspective. But I like how you brought that out in terms of, they're looking at us like, if you're out and doing all these things all the time, then when do you get anything done? Because I know from a different perspective, I've thought about that from, some of the supplier diversity people that we're trying to connect with when they're at every conference, everything. And look at us, we're doing great work. It's like, well, you're never at your desk or answering emails.
You're not responding to my email.
Yeah, I've been trying to connect with you since the last conference where we've been at, but that was 6 conferences ago for you. Yeah. So I thought about it from their perspective, but I didn't really think about it that they're looking at us from the same way. I just know I'm careful with what I post and very strategic and not too much, but I still like the way you brought that out. And it's something to definitely keep in mind.
Something to think about. Yeah. Thank you, Chef Maria. Angel Taylor, if you want to come off mute, your hand is up and then we're going to move on. Yeah.
Hello. Hi. Good morning. I think that I agree with what you say because, the other day you and I spoke in a group meeting and I had told you that a mentor had told me that I didn't need a personal page on LinkedIn. And and you guys kind of said, no, you're gonna need one because it shows who you are. And then I went back to that mentor and told them that, and they said the reason they said that they didn't feel like I needed one, and they usually tell their mentees not to have one, is for that same reason that you're saying now. Because they're saying, a lot of times people get so caught up on posting personal things, then corporations search that and it takes away from your company page. I was like, oh, so now you're saying that. And I'm like, maybe that does kind of make sense more.
Yeah, let me put that into perspective only because I care and I do not want you to lose any opportunities, Angel. So real fast, let's put some perspective on it and then let's move on. So take it from someone who has, I'm not touting this, but I have 30,000 plus connections on LinkedIn, and I have made almost all of my money on LinkedIn for years. Long before QCWIB, I was wildly successful because of LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn's entire platform is based on relationships. It's in the name. And LinkedIn especially, go do their social media research. You will see that people don't trust people on LinkedIn if they don't have a profile picture and if they can't find you, right? So maybe Facebook, maybe everything else. You're like, Dawn Nicole's not on Instagram. I'm not on I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on, any of this, but I am personally, I show up on, you guys, we have people trying to come in the room. So let's just watch that. I am personally on LinkedIn though, because that is where the relationship begins. It doesn't begin with the company, it begins with the person and then your company. So Angel, take it from someone with 30,000 plus connections where I've made a wild 7 figures over 12 years on LinkedIn. You need a personal page. Now, do you need to put the pictures of your kid's prom date? No. You and your husband out on vacation? Probably not, right? Everything needs perspective. And so I'm not putting too many happy birthdays. Now, when I first started, I didn't know better. And I was like, oh, and I have since scaled that way down to give people less to judge, less to talk about. And if I put anything that feels personal, which I do very rarely, if I put it on there, I connect it to a business point. Like when I went on a cruise, I said, this is what work-life balance is about. And trust me, there were no nudie shots, right? There was nothing crazy. It was us, right? I'm just saying, Angel Henry, everything is perspective, please. So Angel Taylor, LinkedIn is like, even when I try to tag you on things, going to Lois laugh, when I try to tag you and I can't find you, you're missing opportunity. When I say Angel Taylor helped us today with X and I can't find you, right? And I'm having to tag the business, because before there's the business brand, there's the personal brand. That's you. So do not miss your opportunity, right? You don't have to share everything personal on LinkedIn, but I absolutely do believe, and I'd be real happy to share and double down with your mentor. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just sharing why I believe this. Does this make sense, Angel Taylor, before we go on?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. All right, so top 5 mistakes. Mistake number 3, non-compliance and certification requirements get us caught up. You all, this is the crux of our business. We talk about certification requirements, but let's talk about non-compliance. What does that look like? Well, we talk about non-compliance. So non-compliance could look like the certificate of insurance. Some companies want you to have a COI, and some of my members found this out the hard way. Chef Marie, I can't remember if you were one of the women. I'm trying to see who on this call went to the TIAA scenario. Was that you?
I went, but I have a certificate of insurance. I just had to add TIAA, but no, I have insurance, so I was good.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no. I didn't finish I'm getting
I'm
there.
sorry.
You beat me to the point. Okay. The first thing I was going to say, as you remember, when you got invited and many other women, there were many of you who were good to go, but there were some women who almost didn't make it. Remember, Sandy? We're not going to mention names, but remember, a few of them were rushing to get. And here's what a lot of women didn't know. And this is why I'm going to say this to you. Even though you have insurance, anytime in most cases that you, find yourselves entering the grounds of a regulated company. So TIAA, I used to work for them in my corporate life because I come from banking, finance, and regulation background. And so they are a regulated company, financial institution. They are going to make you update your insurance to be on their property. A lot of women don't realize that. So when you go and do these events, or you are on property selling or vending in case for risk purposes and hazard, should something happen to you, you have to update this to really show that you have coverage while on TIAA's property. A lot of women didn't understand why they had to update that COI, and they couldn't get it done fast enough. And we had some women who almost didn't take advantage of that opportunity because they didn't understand why, or they were haggling with their insurance companies. Okay. So that is a version of being in compliance. But another version of being in compliance, let me tell you this. See this thing right here? You should have this printed out, ladies. This is your state business certification. Now, watch this, because some of you are going to be like, oh my God, I don't have one. You do. Let me tell you where to go get it. When you filed your business, whatever state you filed in, the Secretary of State website, you can go get it today. So I was actually applying for something. They asked me for my South Carolina, because QCWIB is headquartered in South Carolina. They asked me for my business certification, my certificate of existence is what it's called. And I didn't have it. I had everything else. And I said, oh my gosh, how did I lose this? Right. I put in a quick request on Secretary of State and I had it same day or the next day. And I paid $15. So if you didn't get it at the time of formation, go get it and print it out. It should be in your possession at all times. This is why when you go to a restaurant, you see this on the wall. Okay. Questions, Chef Maria? Got a question?
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina, and I have the articles of incorporation, all that through the Secretary of State. Is that the same thing? Or are we talking
something different? Yep. So I thought so. Same. When I set up my business, same thing, right? I had bylaws, articles, I had all the stuff, but you actually have to request this. And it's already there for you, but if you don't request it, it's called a certificate of existence, and you hang it on the wall and you put it in the plaque because you're proud. And it should actually, they will tell you in law, it should be visible. So when people come into your establishment, this is why you see it hanging on the wall in a restaurant. You see the certificate of when it was established.
And I can go to the Secretary of State website.
Yep, go right. What you're going to do is you're going to look up your business on Secretary of State. You may have to log in, and it will, when you log in, on the same page that your articles and formation and officers, that page, there should be a thing that says order your license, right? They call it a license or certificate of insurance. I mean, not certificate of insurance, certificate of existence. That's what they're talking about. You could just do a quick search, I'm sure, in Google that says North Carolina state, and then there's a quick download. You pay $15 or it's very affordable, and then they get your email and send it as a download the same day or next day.
Wow. Never knew. Thank you. I've been here 7 years. Never knew. Thank you.
You're welcome. Here's why it's important, right? Is because most people order it at the time of formation, but there's so much going on when you're formatting. You don't know what's going on. You don't have all that together. And I just did a grant recently where they asked for it. And I said, oh my gosh, where is that? So I just went and ordered it. So you can get it at any time. All right. Any questions in the chat before we move on?
So Don, are you referring to that as a certificate of operating? Is that what you're referring to, or what specifically is it called?
So they either will call it a business license or a certificate of existence. It's just evidence.
That's the one,
Yeah.
certificate of existence. That's
Of
right. I
existence.
have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And it's a good idea to keep it printed and have it on hand because people will ask for it. We'll see different people ask for it. So, yep. Awesome. Any other
So-
questions?
Yeah, there's a couple in here. One, it's just going to shoot back to the topic we just kind of closed on, just about having, should we have our business with info within our personal page on LinkedIn, or should you have two different profiles?
So here's what I recommend on LinkedIn. There's a profile that's on Dawn Nicole, right? On the person, the human, who you are. That's called a personal account. And then through your personal account, you can set up a business account. It says, do you have a business? Then you can do a business page. So that in theory, I have Dawn Nicole, the human, the personal, then I have Queen City Women in Business that connects to Dawn Nicole's page. Does that make sense? So you have two. You have your business and your personal.
I have another question, Don Nicole. With having the personal page and your business page, are you posting the same information on both pages or only one or the other?
I'm glad you brought that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's specifically on LinkedIn, because that's where obviously my targeted audience is located.
Here's how I approach that. So I'm glad you brought that back up because I was supposed to talk about how it needs to make sense for the type of business you're in, right? So I'm going to answer your question, Tangela, and then I'm going to talk about how, like, if I was a channel news station or a media company, I would be at events because my job is media, right? And so it makes sense to see me because remember earlier I said people are always watching to see how often, so it needs to make sense for what you do, right? If you're an accountant, I don't want to see you at 1,000 events or at parties all the time because I want to trust you with my money, right? So to answer your question, Tangela, I have two pages and I sort of have a rule where I say things that are related to Dawn Nicole, accomplishments, things that matter to me, perspectives, thoughts. So there are certain things that I will post on my personal page that are very specific to how I see the world as a human. And then there are things on my company page. Now, very often, Tangela, what we do, because we're a community that has a lot of events, we post all the time on purpose because we're in the media member space, right? So it makes sense for us. Now, I post first on our business page, and then Dawn will reshare from the business page. So I hope that makes sense, that post business things and business impact things on your business page, and then you, the human, can share them onto your personal page. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have one more thing to add for myself.
Yeah.
So thinking of keeping all your compliance and your certification requirements. This week here at the bank, I've had two customers that came in to open business accounts this week, and neither of them were their active status on Secretary of State page, not active. And it was because they forgot to pay the year before. So I know we have a lot to think of when you're business owners and keeping all your certifications up, but don't forget about that active status, because when you go to actually do something and they pull it up and I have to say, hey, I'm so sorry, Dawn Nicole, I'm glad you came in today. However, right now, your company's dissolved and not active. and you're like, "Oh, what do I do?" Well, then you start getting on the phone and you find out it's because you just didn't pay it last year. And then that inconveniences you because now you've taken time out of your busy schedule to come in, make this appointment. Now you have to go home, get this all set up, and then schedule an appointment to come in again.
Yeah.
So thinking of just, I see that, like I said, 2 times this week, and it's only Thursday. So just something to keep
Think
up on,
about.
and it happens way more than people think. So one was from 2 years. So she has 2 years of non-active status that she's been operating as a business.
Wow.
So just kind of adding that to your, hey, remember to do this every year.
Yeah,
Just
that's
think
good,
back.
Kimberly. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Um, all right, so good catch up, good lookout for us. So no, good to know. Okay, so moving us along. So I'll put these two together. So poor financial management and pricing strategies, and then weak marketing and presentation skills. Let's go to the financial piece because these are kind of combined and they really shouldn't be. They're kind of separate to me. But let's just talk about the financial management for a second. Financial management in this sense is not just about your budgeting and like, oh, you can't save money. Because I think when people say financial management, they automatically assume that it's a budgeting and a money saving and an overspending thing. But what this looks like is well, when it comes to us being suppliers, ladies, is you not being in touch with how money comes in your door. Poor financial management. You don't know what those numbers are. So I'm going to actually give this to you very practically because no one hardly does. They don't really, right? They gloss over this. So I'm going to break it down like this. I'm going to pretend for a second that let's say that you have a POS, a point of sale. Let's say that you do something in your business where when people pay you, Angel, if people pay you, whatever you use for your point of sale system, whether it's, I'm just going to make this up, maybe it's Stripe, maybe it's PayPal, maybe it's one of the other ones, okay? Let's just say that's how money comes in. So that's your POS, okay? And I'm having this level of conversation because I don't think people have this enough. So that's one way money comes in. But then let's say that you also, Chef Maria or Angel Taylor, you use QuickBooks. So if you're a Queen City Women in Business, we have a couple of streams, okay? Let me just open it up like this. We have Stripe, which is a huge one that comes in, right? This counts our memberships and our products that we sell, that's Stripe. And then we use Wave for big invoices with corporate partners. That's number 2. So watch this. We use Stripe, we use Wave, and then we pay out with Gusto. So technically, we have 3 systems of record for different things. Now, when I talk about financial management, I need to, on a regular basis, make sure I'm pulling a report that can show me incoming through the memberships, that's Stripe, incoming through Wave, how many invoices this month, and then how much did I pay out. That even in it of itself, most people don't look at it like that. They're not pulling reports until they have to. So it would be poor financial management if you didn't have some system that allowed you to tap into those reports. First of all, some people aren't even thinking about it in that way to say there's 3 places I need to always look at least to understand what's incoming and outgoing. Now, yes, you have your bank account too, but that's the pass through. Like you need to be able to pull a report to say how much came in through Stripe every month or every week. How much did we earn through Wave? How many invoices did we send out and got paid? And then how much did we pay out through our expense, which is Gusto, right? And that is the beginning of understanding your data points, right? Your sources of record, your systems of record. So that's the first thing. And you'd be surprised how many people don't even look at their PayPal or whatever, right? Until it's the end of the year and they have to prepare their taxes. So this is what we mean by poor financial managing systems. Also, if you aren't in touch with those sources in that way, you don't know where to tweak your pricing strategy. So your price is off because you haven't really done the work to understand what's coming in. Is that enough money? Is it covering your expenses, right? Is it covering everything? Is this making sense, ladies? Because I think oftentimes when people say financial management, everyone assumes budget and overspending, and they're saying, oh, that's not me. But no, this part though, right? So any questions or comments on this? And Kimberly, this also matters when you're asking people for revenues for the past 12 months or 2 years, and they're like, oh, I got to go find it out. They don't have this readily available, correct? You want to speak to that real fast?
Yeah, as business owners, I'm sure your CPA wants to know where all your stuff's coming in. And when people come in and they say, I use, well, some of my customers pay me on Cash App, and some of them have been Zelling me, and then I put it in my personal account, and then I move it over here. Just one POS system, and it's super, super helpful, especially if you say, hey, I want to do some lending. I really want to expand my business. And I say, great, I need to see your statements. And it's going to say, where's your revenue? How much on average are you depositing? And that's something you're going to want to be able to know right away, whether you keep track of it on QuickBooks, whether you're relying on your bank statements to be accurate, whatever that looks like. But also, you can always reach out to me because I do that point of sale system also here locally with WorldPay. But also as part of your Queen City Women business, we're all here together. Give me a call. I give that free financial advice to all of you. So, but it will be something that when you're looking at lending or even just opening a new account somewhere, they're going to ask you that just to make sure they get you in the right account. It's
Yeah.
also going to take a ton off you if you know that everything's coming in the same way and you don't have it coming in 4 different ways because you're trying to get just your customers to pay you any way they can. Just please pay me.
Yeah.
So getting that just kind of streamlined is super helpful in so many different ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And again, so you don't know where your opportunities are if you don't know what your money looks like, right? Pricing strategies. This is why people are underpriced or overpriced, because there is actual work that goes into it. It starts with, here's a quick nugget. We don't have a lot of time to deep dive, but remember I told you the supplier readiness training program, it goes into detail on this, okay? But here's a quick nugget. The first way to start with your pricing strategy consideration is to look at what you're currently priced at and to ask yourself, am I making enough for what I'm giving? Am I priced right? Am I making enough, right? I know that this is what I've been charging for the last 6 months or 12 months, but is this doing it? Is this covering it? And so, but you don't know what that is if you don't have a good tracking system, all right? Let's talk about weak marketing and presentation skills. The presentation skills is going to be very important for us as women who want to be suppliers or are suppliers, because we're constantly presenting. We're constantly pitching our case. And it's not that you all don't know how to present. See, I like to be real clear. This is less about your ability to present confidently and more about your ability to present the right thing in the right order. A lot of people will put a pitch deck together and it's 30 pages of stuff and it's not the right stuff. You know, one of the things I do is anytime I look at my calendar at the top of the week. I look at it at the beginning of the month in the top of each week, Sunday night, actually. And I look to ask myself, okay, I'm speaking to this person on Wednesday, this group on Thursday, this company on Friday. Do I already have a deck? And then does that deck need to be customized? And I have this little sticky right next to my camera that actually asks myself, what is it that this person needs to know? Because not everyone needs to know the same thing. What does this company need to know? What do they want to hear? What is it that I need to talk about with this construction company versus this medical healthcare company? It's not the same thing, right? And it took me forever to realize that one deck, I can't tell you how many times Taja and I customize decks that we have. We customize it and massage it, right, Taja, based on the audience we're talking to, right? So I'm constantly asking, what is the right things to cover? What are the most important 5 points for this conversation? I'm always asking myself. That way I know I'm not over talking or overdoing it, okay? I have time for one question here before we go to the next page.
Can I make a comment here?
Yeah.
To that point?
Yeah.
That is very critical. The customization also speaks to your researching of them, both the company and the person. The more you could put the flavor of what you've researched about them into your presentation, the more advantageous they are to pay attention. And you should never have a proposal or any presentation that is 30 pages. That should never happen, because that should be a conversation. You
Right.
want to engage your audience in a meaningful way. So keep it limited so that there's more conversation so that you can really draw them in. I'm sorry, I just had to.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. Awesome. Is this helpful so far? I just want to make sure that this is resonating because today is very much conversational. Sandy, I see your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to go off of what Taja was saying. Is there like a particular good limit of PowerPoint present when you're doing that PowerPoint presentation, like keep it to 10 slides or 5 slides? Is there a
Yeah.
limit?
Yeah, Taj, you want to answer, then I'll tell you what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to stay within that 10 to 15 slide limit.
Mm-hmm. I do too. I would say so that the reason why I have this sticky, especially if you're long-winded and you're a storyteller and you come from a Jamaican family where they tell stories to teach you things, like I do. I keep what's the most important 5 points I need to make. If I can't make it in 5 points, I'm doing too much. You should be able to like kill it in 5 points, right? And so I think, Sandy, if you ask yourself what's the most important 5 points, and then you build a pitch deck around those 5 points, right? You'll probably end up with 5 or 6 or 7, no more than 10 slides. But that's why I start with the points versus the slides. You should have a small, tight amount of slides. Does that answer your question, Sandy?
Awesome. Thank you both.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so now let's move us along quickly. Let's talk about being able to service large companies, you being a tier 1. I had a great conversation with a major national company today, as she corrected me that they might be based in Florida, but they are nationwide. She told me that when she partners with QCWIB, her goal is to make you all tier 1s, meaning all this jazz about you all having to work your way up really hard and long. Her goal is to hire you directly and give you the experience of being a tier 1 to hire tier 2 subcontractors. So I'm very excited. She's willing to meet you all where you are, meaning you can be in business 2 years versus 10 years and work with her. So, but what most companies want you to have in order to do big business with them is what I'm going to call the 3 C's. So I want you to write this down and we're going to talk a little bit about it today. You know that you are ready to do bigger business when you have the 3 C's. The 3 C's are competence, capacity, and capital. Now, it's not so much about what as it is about how this shows up, right? So you can say all day, oh, I'm competent. I have a great competent company, right? Competence is about, being a leader, being an authority, being the best at what you do, right? You're past being a beginner. You're clearly competent because you have proven experience, lived experience. But all of that is nice, but how will you prove it? How will you prove it? We were on a call last week where one of the same construction company said, we have no problem finding them, but we have a hard time finding women who can prove that they did what they did, right, Tasha? So then we had to figure out, oh my gosh, what would be our strategy to show him that we have proven women? So what does this look like? So I want you all to come off mute for a second. I want to ask you all a real question. Outside of you saying with your mouth, hey, I'm wildly competent, you should trust me, what are the clues that show a company, a big corporation, that you are competent? How does it show up? What does it look? What else? Where else can they verify that you're competent? What does that look like?
Don Nicole, I'd like to respond to that
Yeah.
for Trinity Strategic Consulting.
Mhm.
One of the things that I am very heavy in doing is using business cases. You will find it on my website. You will find it on my capability statement.
Mhm.
You will find it just because, even to one of your representative points about having that earlier conversation. There's 2 points I want to make around that piece.
Mhm.
It's always in the fabric of the discovery,
Mm.
and because as you talk about storytelling,
Mhm.
it's in the story.
Mhm.
You can talk about things that you've done. They can also go back and verify it should you decide to move forward, because I always approach prospects of disqualifying them. not to
Mm.
necessarily know that they're going to be a client. I want to
Mhm.
disqualify them quickly as possible. And the slide deck, when I do use it, it's definitely sometimes only 5 slides,
Mhm.
because I don't do pitching. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not something that I do. And then the final thing, no matter what you're doing along that journey, always be next step obsessed.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have a next step with that prospect, with that customer, then you lose your ability to continue navigating your process, your sales process.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yes, that's how I show my proof. It's in the
Okay.
storytelling, it's in the business or use cases, in everything that we're doing along the way.
Love it. I love, especially love the use cases, the case studies. Yeah,
That's right.
love it, love it. Angel, too, you were gonna say something. Angel Henry, I wanted to give you a chance to speak too.
Yes, I was gonna say metrics and data.
Ooh.
So surveys are a huge part of what we do is baked in. So
Mm-hmm.
after every event, if there's a
Mm-hmm.
workshop that's done, even if it's 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
anytime that we are delivering something to the client, we immediately send a survey. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's low, right? There's no cost to that. You can just create a Google
Create.
survey or, Survey Monkey, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and you get that data. Now, the cool thing is that, of course, you have now multiple touch points with one client. So,
Yep.
so you can look bigger than what you are
Yeah.
because you have maybe had 4 surveys from that one client, and now you can say 100% of people surveyed
Yeah.
agree that you know
Yeah.
um and there's some automated things too. So as a speaker, for anybody who's a speaker here, there's an automated service that they do have a free offering called Talkadot, that is really getting a lot in the industry, and I'm starting to use it. And what I love about Talkadot is that the survey is embedded. They scan the QR code, they answer, and right away, immediately, Talkadot creates the slides for you.
Yeah.
You just update your logo, and now you have the slides that have your testimonials from your clients and what they've said right there that you can put on your slide deck, your pitch deck, or on your website.
No, I love it. And I know we're running out of time for the final page. So Chef Maria, so thank you for sharing that, Angel. We're going to talk more about Talkadoc at the speaker series coming up in August. Chef Maria, do you have something quick, a quick question?
Yeah, I'll make it real quick. I
Yep.
use testimonials and then I tag those people on LinkedIn, and people follow me on LinkedIn so that way they can see, I have social proof that I have clients who are happy.
Yes, that's literally taking us to the final page. All right. And so everyone else is going to have to wait. All right. So let's end with this. There are 3 types of referrals that you can get to show social proof. When it comes to your referrals, all referrals are not made equal. The most powerful referrals you can show are the outcomes. But so let's kind of walk through it. All right. So there's an experience testimonial, there's a results driven testimonial, and there is an outcome driven testimonial. And this is all laid out on our YouTube page. It's called How to Request LinkedIn Recommendations, where we talk about this ad nauseum, right? But let's go into how they're different and why the most powerful 2 are going to be number 2 and 3. So experience, Angel, is if when I walked into your office or when you showed up, before I got anything out of it, I was just a happy, satisfied customer because you gave me a great experience. Experience doesn't equal outcome or result. This is why sometimes you can go somewhere and say, oh my gosh, it's so clean in here. I love it. You all are so nice. And then you go through the product piece and you hate the product. And you got mixed. Has that ever happened where you thought you were going to give a good testimonial and then you got all the way through it and the outcome and it kind of sucked at the end? I have. I've had situations where they got back to me fast and I thought it was going to be good, but at the end of it, it wasn't that great. So experience is about the feeling that you got. It was clean. It was nice. I had a good experience. It was pleasant, right? And this is not what I'm used to seeing. So I was pleasantly surprised. Experience is the initial piece. But then the result is if you got something, Kimberly, so if I come to Fifth Third Bank and you were able to give me something at the end of the meeting that was hard for me to get, I got a result because maybe you gave me a phone number to a partner that I've been trying to get. I had a good experience at your branch and I walked away with the result. But the outcome is what happens after I called that partner. The outcome is later. So if you can get testimonials around these three phases, you're winning. A lot of people don't realize that there are 3 levels of testimonials and they only live up here. And so they have a whole bunch of testimonials on their page about experience only. But wouldn't it be great if you could get people to talk about what happened later because they showed up? So Chef Maria, for example, you came and you spoke and we give you a high performance score because we had a great experience. But then I took the things that you taught us and I went and applied it. And 60 days later, I had results and outcomes. I'm going to do another testimonial. So make sure that all the people who gave you experience-based testimonials, follow up with them. Here's a real scenario. There's a woman named Karima Riddick. True story. She's a QCWIB member. She is the owner of Yes Darling Tea. When she first started out in Yes Darling Tea, she gave Queen City Women in Business an experience-based testimonial that went like this. Because of Queen City Women in Business, I got so many leads. Today, I provided the tea. I had a great experience. They're wonderful to work with. I'm so excited about the future. Today, she's given us outcome testimonials because her product is at Walmart. It's in store shelves. See the difference? I hope y'all are hearing me because outcome is very powerful, way more powerful than experience. Okay. So make sure that you're classifying and categorizing these because most people won't tell you this. They'll just gloss over it and say, go get testimonials. But there are 3 different types of strategy. Is this helpful as we come to a close? Any questions before we go? Thoughts, questions?
Very helpful. Back on the other slide, when you talked about it mentioned capacity and capital.
Yes.
Are we deep diving on those later?
We're going to do it right now with our 4 minutes left. Thank you for bringing me back. All right. So, so we talked about competence, but capacity is your ability to show up. So the real reason why this gentleman at this construction company was concerned that if he gives you a multi-million-dollar project to manage, Angel, and his relationship is with you, and then he turns around and he sees your face all over social media at all these events, he's worried is because there's the perception that you and your company don't have capacity. Capacity is your ability to stretch beyond just you doing the work. You can't be the same person who takes the check, guarantees the check, says, I'll manage the project, but then you're all over the place at every single event and all he ever sees is you. So capacity in its simplest form is the ability for them to believe that you and other people will work to deliver the job. Because where I came from in procurement, when I worked at TIAA in the federal regulatory space, right? That's why I'm interested in this work, because we used to hire companies, right? It was a risk to our company if you were the only person in the company, because God forbid something happens to you. Now you have our deal and our guarantee and you're gone. So you have to demonstrate you have capacity, and capacity means it's not just me, it's me and it's several other people on the team. But the question becomes, well, what if, Dawn Nicole, I am the only person in my business? How do I still win this and show capacity? You have to then show, Chef Maria, that you're partnered with other companies who are like you. You're teamed up. You have a network. And so the right words to use is that it's not just me. There is an entire network of partners that we work with to deliver this project. There are me and there's an entire team. Many of them are in-house. Some are subcontracted and some are partners. And we work as a team to get this done. That is demonstrating that you have capacity. And this is why when you go for RFP, you have to show all the companies that will deliver this RFP with you. I saw a hand raise and then we'll end on capital. Was there a question?
I was going to make a comment, but I'll wait. I can put it in the chat. I know we're tight on time.
Okay. Okay, cool. But does this make sense, Angel, and folks on capacity make sense? And I think this is why he was saying, if I see you out and you're the same person that spoke with me, it looks like you don't have a team and you're just hanging out and now my things are at risk. So lastly, capital. So you can have all the competence in the world. You can have all the capacity in the world, but if you don't have capital, you can't pay people. Kimberly, I see you off mute. This is your topic. Go ahead, Kimberly. Were you going to say something?
No, you're good. I was off mute. That way I could chime in when I needed to, but
Okay.
so I just stayed off mute to be able to answer you quickly.
Okay. Competence in the world. You can have all the capacity in the world. Capital, if you can't demonstrate capital, you could lose out on opportunities. This is a true story, right? If you can't demonstrate that, if we give you a big order and you can't deliver it because you don't have evidence of having capital, that means here's the risk to the company. Let's put ourselves in the company's shoes for a second. Even though we want the big deal, if the company signs this contract for you to deliver 10,000 widgets in 60 days to 5 stores, you're going to need money to do that because you're not doing that today. While you can do it on a small scale today, you can't do that on a large anyone's going to need capital for 10,000 orders. That's a big order. And what happens is if you can't demonstrate that you can satisfy that purchase order, that PO, you could lose the deal if you can't deliver. This is why you want to build that financial relationship with like a Kimberly at Fifth Third, right? Before you need it. The right time to seek capital is before this happens because many of these companies won't even give you the deal if you can't demonstrate that you have a capital source. Kimberly?